Is that working or not? Oh, darn it. Yeah, I guess it is. Stupid GoPro. This is, by the way, is a GoPro 7. Howdy. Oh, gosh, let's see. How's that? That's better. Howdy. Well, Ian McCollum did it to me again. Yesterday, I think I did a video about a mimosan that's actually was used in the Finnish Winter War. Well, today, he's in some private collection and showing off a whole host of Arisakas that also were used in the Finnish Winter War. And I found that amazing. So I went, okay, he's talking about type 30, 35, and 38 Arisakas. Those are all in 6.5 Japanese. And they're not as common as the 7.7 type or Model 99 Arisaka you find in America today, because that was what America fought with the Japanese in the island, the various islands of the Pacific. That's the rifle they were using. Well, let me show you something. This, let's see, are you going to stand up there? Yeah, there it is. This is my Model 38. See, it even says 38 model right there. And what it does not say right here is a chrysanthemum. But you will note something. The chrysanthemum is the symbol of the emperor. And anytime a weapon was surrendered at the end of World War II, the chrysanthemum was ground off, usually with just a grinder, or it was scratched out with a chisel or something like that. It was defaced in an ugly manner. The idea was, as a diplomatic thing, that since the emperor was still on his throne, that you could not own the emperor's property. And that chrysanthemum, which was the symbol of the imperial house, was considered a property mark of the emperor. So they had to get rid of it. Well, this one obviously was not gotten rid of as such. It was, I think, sold on the commercial market, and it turns out the Japanese sold these to a lot of people. The British bought them, Estonia, Finland, even Russia bought some. They had a few that were left over from their own war with Japan that they'd captured, but they bought a whole bunch more. Well, Finland ended up with a whole bunch of them. But you'll notice that it's just very carefully smoothed out here. If you look really close, you can see some marks here. Not just faint marks, which tells me that it was polished out by somebody who was a master gunsmith, which was only done early on to Type 38s. So this one was not in that respect, a Japanese. Well, I already discovered that this was actually made in a Chinese arsenal, one of the Chinese arsenals that were controlled by the Japanese. What's his name? Duncan McCollum, I think. Ian's dad, who wrote his book on Japanese rifles, describes all the various arsenals and the arsenal marks. And this one has a later arsenal mark. I'll show it to you right here. And that's the Tokyo Arsenal right there. But there's another arsenal mark here that's sort of smudged out. And I think what that's saying is that this one, by the way, is the sign of 3 cannonballs with another one stacked on top. What this tells me is that it was a arsenal rework in Tokyo, but it was made in China. So, and it's an early Type 38, very early. And it's actually in pretty darn good condition. But alas, no, this does not have the SA in a box. It doesn't have the funny sights. It doesn't have the oversized front sight on it. It doesn't have any of the markings that would be associated with a Finnish one. It doesn't have any markings on it at all. I'm wondering if this was actually something that was actually sold on the private commercial market, or if it was sold into some other military that never bothered to mark it with their own property marks, because I've looked all over it and I can't find anything. Oh well, at least I know it's not it's not Finnish. But that brings to mind the Japanese concept of Bushido. And I wanted to say something. This is the book, the ultimate book about Bushido. Am I showing that right? Let me get over here and do something. No, you piece of junk. tripod. There. No? Going to be good? Going to be good? You're not going to be good. Oh, well. I hope that's not cutting it off. Anyway, this is Miyamoto Musashi's book. It's called A Book of Five Rings. He was probably the greatest samurai to ever exist. And there's tales of him retiring to an island to write poetry and paint. And some other samurai decided that they would go and prove themselves by killing him. Musashi had left his sword at home, so all he had was the oars from the boat that he took to get to the island. And when these guys attacked, he killed both of them, even though they were armed with a standard katana. All he had was a sword, an oar to use as a sword, and he killed both of them. Masterful man. Anyway, in this, he describes, as he calls it, the way of the samurai. And it's just really an interesting book. I've read it a couple of times. And it's just a masterful work on the subject. He is to Japan what Clausewitz is to Germany, what Sun Tzu is to China, what so many other strategists are to various places in the world. And by the way, get your pause button ready because I'm going to talk about some books. The other book out of Japan is Hagakure. It took me a while to find this. I can't find my copy. I bought a new one. Hagakure, called the Book of the Samurai, it actually means some parting leaves, I think is the actual translation of the word. Is written by a retainer to one of the Dyomo, the great clans that used to rule under the shogun. And it's basically a reminiscence from when he was retired in a Buddhist monastery and talking to another samurai and going, yeah, in my day, you know, the men had better respect for the women and you know, you had to walk uphill both ways in the blizzard when you go to school, you know, that kind of stuff. And it was that kind of reminiscence, but it talks about the various things of samurai culture and samurai society from the 1700s until the time of the suppression of the shogun and the rise of the Meiji Restoration. It's just fascinating book. Get a copy of this if you're interested in Japan at all, because this is a capsule of that period of time. But it also is just affirmations and discussions of various things that were happening in Japan and from the samurai perspective. And it shows the honor of Bushido, which is the way of the warrior in Japan. Now, as I said, these books are the equivalent of Sun Tzu and others. Well, like I said, get your pen out because I'm going to be talking about a couple of them. Let me know, by the way, if this is something that interests you, because if it is, I'll do more of them. This book, get this book in particular, Roots of Strategy. It is a encapsulation, it's sort of a compilation of various writers on strategy, writers on various tactics and logistics and the like. Okay, Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu has the ultimate, his Art of War, by the way. I can't find my copy. I have a little pocketbook copy of it. And the wonderful thing about a pocketbook is you can carry it around. I've read it about a dozen times, and I've carried it around everywhere, and damned if I remember where I put it. But this is a book about it. And this is also a great companion book on the subject, The Art of War, Sun Tzu. Otherwise, Vegetius. Vegetius was a Roman writer, and here we have two different editions of his work. This is probably still available. I don't know if this one is, but this is probably still available and is well worth getting. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. And is fascinating. This is he was a writer in the late Roman Empire, talking about the ways of the Roman legions in their heyday, and it's like it has been a source of military tactics and strategy all through the Middle Ages. Matter of fact, it's quoted in this book quite often, Art of War in the Middle Ages, and excellent work. This one, Maurice de Saxe, he was a marshal of France Marshall was a military officer under the dynasty there, the Louis. The Bourbons, that's the word I was looking for, the Bourbon dynasty. And he was actually, I think, the bastard son of the Elector of Bavaria, as I recall. And he got sick during one campaign, and while he was recuperating, excuse me, damn sinuses. While recuperating, he wrote a book on tactics and strategy that was the work of importance that led into the Renaissance in the subject of warfare. He spoke of the importance of marching in cadence. That was his main contribution to the art. De Saxe basically led France into many, many victories, and therefore his word became something of a legend. Well worth reading. He's a very fascinating read. Get this book, because this is probably the only translation surviving of Maurice de Saxe. And if for nothing else, get that. But the next one, this is Frederick the Great. Frederick the Great wrote a book he called Advice to My Generals. And it was a state secret of his, only held by generals. They were supposed to either pass it on to their successor or burn it when they died. But several copies of it leaked out, and it was published. And it's a fascinating work on tactics and strategy written by Frederick the Great. And the last one here is from Napoleon Bonaparte's amanuensis, who wrote a book on Napoleon's strategies. And like him or hate him, Napoleon Bonaparte was one of the greatest military tacticians in the history of mankind. And studying his work would really benefit anyone who's really interested in this subject. Just something that I think that you really ought to pay attention to. This is Art of War. Art of War, Maurice de Saxe. Those are two. Oh, there's one other you should read, Clausewitz. I don't have him here. I do have a copy somewhere around here, but I can't find it. Clausewitz is he was a German, I guess tactician, but more of a theorist. He wrote an excellent book, but it's very droll, very dry, very German, and very difficult to get through. But Maurice de Saxe here, he actually writes in a much more profound and I don't know, easy to read style. Anyway, that's my take on tactics, strategy, and war. Now, I don't know nothing. I'm just a dumb hillbilly, but I can read, and I've read all of these and many more, and I've come up with a couple of ideas of my own. But they're just my ideas, nothing else. Oh, by the way, I wanted to say something. Most folks out there on a YouTube video, let me pull this up here. Oh, yeah. Most folks out there on a YouTube video say, like, share, and subscribe. Well, I'm not that way. I never have said that, ever. My attitude has been real simple. If you like what I provide, great. Show up, subscribe if you like, share it with a friend, write a comment. Give me an okie dokie thumbs up or something. But okay, so that there, I just said it. But I don't care much, And why is this thing showing a wrench at me? Anyway, talk to you later.